Welcome back. I'm Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind. So for the past couple of episodes, we've discussed forgiveness, and we've discussed unforgiveness, and we've discussed forgiving yourself. So there was forgiveness directed outward towards those who have hurt us, and there's forgiveness directed inward as we let ourselves off the hook. And we've explored that the effects that forgiveness and unforgiveness have on your body in terms of chronic stress and the destructive chemicals that are released when you're in a state of chronic stress brought on by unforgiveness. So today, I'd like to discuss the effect that unforgiveness has on your for having fulfillment in your job. Unforgiveness is actually hazardous to your success. Now, admittedly, my teaching is not the standardized spiritual teaching you may have heard from others. I've heard others teach that prayer doesn't really change anything except the person who is doing the praying. Well, we all know that's not true. I've also heard that so-called miracles credited to Jesus the Christ were only stories. Perhaps so, I don't know. I doubt that they're stories based upon my own experience, but hey, if you want to believe that, fine. I've also heard that you can't really change your life and circumstances without a lot of hard work, and that isn't always effective, the hard work that is. And I've heard that what you feel and what you think doesn't really affect the outside world. It only affects you internally and those in your immediate vicinity on whom you inflict your feelings and moods, and etc. So I dispute all those statements. I dispute them all because they're based upon the belief that you are a single isolated being in the midst of other single isolated beings who have no contact with each other than verbal. Maybe some interpreting body language and that kind of thing. So we know, at least those who listen to this show know, that those statements are not true, because we are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. We are directly connected to the creative force of the universe, and we know that we are not alone in this world. We are not isolated and by ourselves. We know that. So, considering the small audience I have, which is okay, I think perhaps I'm standing on a hilltop and shouting out into the wind where very few people can hear me. But if that is the case, if that's true, then so be it. I have been given a calling from infinite intelligence, that creative force that we call God, and that calling tells me that I have a message to deliver, and so I am here delivering it, and those who are supposed to hear that message are going to hear it. Remember, many are called, but few are chosen. So I'll continue to shout from my hilltop into the wind, telling the truth about who and what we really are. You are not an isolated, powerless being, and anyone who tells you that is not telling you the truth. Now, I'm not saying that they don't believe what they're saying, because they really do, but it is still not true. So, let's get down to it. I gave a talk on Sunday at the First Spiritualist Temple of East Aurora in New York State. And in that talk, I discussed the subject of your power and your effect on the world. And so I'd like to replay that short talk for you, and then we'll just make a point of what I'm talking about, and then we'll come back after that video and continue our discussion on how unforgiveness can affect your material success. Here's the video.
To have a girl like her is truly a dream come true. Out of all the fellas in the world, she belongs to you. But it was just my imagination running away with me. It was just my imagination running away with me. Obviously, I'm not a professional. The theme of the day's talk is the imagination, and so when you guys, most of you already know that was a hit song from The Temptations in 1971. When I realized the message that I was going to talk about imagination, that song started running through my head, so I thought I'd share it with you today. That song actually illustrates something that I find disturbing, and that is imagination is often belittled in our society. It's often referred to as just your imagination. Another term to discount the value of imagination is magical thinking. We hear that a lot in the media, magical thinking. Magical thinking, or as also known as superstitious thinking, is the belief that unrelated events are causally connected, despite the absence of any plausible causal link between them, particularly as a result of supernatural effects. Examples include the idea that our thoughts can actually affect the external world. But that's the materialistic viewpoint, and I have to admit, we are in a materialistic world, a materialistic society, where materialism has actually reached toxic levels. If you can't see it or touch it or smell it, then it isn't real. It's just your imagination. It's just magical thinking. But when you think about it, at least when I think about it, the question is referring to imagination that way actually accurate? I don't think so. Let's consider the real power of imagination. Paul Harris, a developmental psychologist and professor at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, who studies imagination, says, whenever you think about the Civil War, or the Roman Empire, or even God, you're using your imagination. The imagination is absolutely vital for contemplating reality, not just those things we take to be fantasy. Think of this. Without imagination, there would be no great literature. Without imagination, there would be no great architecture. Without imagination, the cars that brought you here today would never have been invented. Without imagination, there would be no medical breakthroughs. Without imagination, there would be no scientific achievements. Einstein, for example, used his imagination when he postulated the famous theory of relativity. They asked him how he came up with that. He said, oh, it was simple. I just imagined myself flying at the speed of light, and then I looked around to see how everything was happening around me. Imagination. Einstein said of imagination, imagination is more important than knowledge. For knowledge is limited to all we know now, and all we understand now, while imagination embraces the entire world. Imagination embraces all there ever will be to know and understand. Knowledge gives us what we already know. Imagination takes us into unknown territory. You know, for centuries, the world believed that there was no life after death. The idea of getting messages or help from deceased relatives or friends was just our imagination. They referred to the non-corporal life form as ghosts. Yet here we are in the first spiritualist temple, celebrating the scientific truth that there is life after death. We don't call them ghosts, we call them friends and relatives. We affirm that the existence and personal identity of the individual continue after the change called death. We affirm that communication with the so-called dead is a fact, scientifically proven by the phenomena of spiritualism. I remember in the 1980s when I was matriculating at the Amron Mystery School to become a minister, one of the things we were trained to do was to access our psychic and mediumship abilities to deliver messages to people attending the church. My teacher, my spiritual teacher, Norman Tringale, asked me on numerous occasions, why aren't you giving messages? I can see the spirits around you, and they're talking to you, so why aren't you delivering messages? Well, the reason for my silence was fear. Fear of ridicule, fear of making mistakes, because I was frightened that the things I was hearing and seeing were just my imagination. It took a while for me to learn to trust and to be able to deliver messages. I also remember that we had weekly healing circle at the Church of Amron. And often people who had given up on the medical industry, the medical establishment, would contact us for help in healing those illnesses and ailments that the medical establishment said could not be healed. So we, through sending out energy, through our magical thinking, focused healing energy to those people. And despite what the medical establishment said, we were able to assist in some so-called miraculous healings. Of course, the materialists would tell us that we were just indulging in magical thinking, that what we were doing was just our imagination. Yet people were experiencing amazing healing events. Neville Goddard, who was one of the premier mystics and metaphysical teachers of the middle 20th century, taught that there's no power outside of our own consciousness. Therefore, you cannot turn to anyone outside of yourself. He felt that it was critical for us to understand that our wonderful imagination is God. He taught that imagination is God's way of showing us what's possible. And that what we call God, or source, or universe, or infinite intelligence is not outside of us. It's within us. Neville advised us to use our imaginations to guide and improve our lives. He often said that by using our imaginations to place ourselves in situations where we wished to find ourselves in the future, and then being able to see that clearly through our imagination, and being able to feel ourselves being there, then if we held on to those imagined experiences, if we held on to them, then eventually they would harden into fact. They would harden into reality. They would become concrete physical events in our lives. And mystics down through the ages have attested to that same teaching. And the Bible encourages us to believe in our imaginations. In the book of Mark, chapter 11, verse 24, it is said, "Therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you will have them." And when you begin to exercise your imagination, when you begin to move forward because your imagination is pulling you forward, then stay the course. Don't fall back. Don't fall back into so-called reality, because then you could get stuck in the past. I mean, Lot's wife was an example of that when in the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. She was told, do not look back. But she did. And when she did, she turned into a pillar of salt. Just a note on the symbolism of that. Salt is a preservative. Salt made things last. And so she preserved the past rather than moving forward into the future. On that same note, the book of Luke, chapter 9, verse 62. But Jesus said to them, no one having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of God. Do not look back. Imagination will pull you forward. Looking back keeps you stuck in the past. Then there's that powerful declaration that I love in the book of Isaiah, chapter 55, verses 10 and 11, where he says, for as the rain cometh down and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, to make it bring forth and bud, to give bread, to give seed to the sower, and bread to the eater. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish what I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. Imagination is the power of creativity. Imagination creates our world. Not only those things that are built as a result of imagination, but our world, period. We each, every one of us, live in a different world. We may be standing next to each other or sitting next to each other, but we each live in a different world. We each perceive things differently. We may see the same buildings, but our experience of those buildings and our environment is different. That is because our brains are making it all up. I was recently watching a program on Nova where they discussed how our brain sees. What we see outside of ourselves through our eyes is not the way a camera records images on a film. No, our brain converts what our eyes see through chemical reactions and electrical impulses. And the amazing thing about the brain is that it doesn't process everything in front of us. That's too much information. According to Nova, in order to actually see the whole world, our brains would have to be 50 times bigger than they are. What is actually taking place is that our eyes are constantly moving, jumping around, taking small snapshots of the environment. And then the brain ties them all together. Fun fact, the objects that don't move, the brain ignores them because they can get painted in from memory. So if it ain't moving, the brain ain't going to pay attention to it. It's already created it in your head. What I find even more amazing than that is that what we see is based on our personality and our past experiences. We see what we expect to see. That's why there was such a controversy a couple of years ago about a dress that was either blue and black or white and gold. It all had to do with the way you perceive color. Not on what was actually there, but on the way you perceive color. Friendships were broken up over that dress because people couldn't agree on how it looked. So when you get down to it, what we see is actually based on our imagination. It said that the indigenous people who first encountered Columbus and his ships didn't see the ships until they arrived. They knew something was out there, but they couldn't see it because their brains had not yet experienced those kinds of objects, those boats, and therefore it didn't know what kind of picture to paint. So it didn't happen until the boats were actually upon them that their brains began to be able to create what Columbus's ships looked like. Up to that point, they were invisible. So when someone suggests that what we see is in reality is actually a construct, maybe they're right. Maybe it's just our imagination. The physical world is not as solid and unshakable as we've come to believe. Reality is not necessarily real. So my caution is, don't let reason And so-called reality cuts you off from the fulfillment of your dreams, from the manifestation of a better life. Those materialists who like to call themselves quote-unquote realists disrespect imagination and magical thinking. They will happily tell you that what you imagine for your life is not true. They say it's impossible. They say it's magical thinking. It's just your imagination and you should settle for reality. My advice, don't do it. God feeds the images into your imagination and uses your imagination to show you possibilities beyond what you have seen, what you're seeing before you, what you are experiencing in your immediate environment. There is possibility for change. Your imagination shows that to you. So discounting your imagination is actually cutting God off. Cutting off the infinite intelligence. So rather than suppressing our imaginations, we should be seeking ways to enhance our imaginations, to develop our imaginations. I remember when I was a writer in advertising, there were times when my creative juices were not flowing because the demands were intense sometimes. They wanted 20 headlines in an hour. So what I learned that I could do was I would walk out of the office and hop on the bus. Sit in the back seat and ride the bus. And then get another one and ride it back. And by the time I got back, my mind was just flourishing with ideas, bursting. Or I would walk down to the beach and lay in the sand and look up at the clouds until the ideas started to flow. You know, Thomas Edison, who was a very imaginative person, highly creative inventor, stimulated his imagination by taking short naps during the day. He had cots all over his company. And what he would do is when he took his nap, he would hold a ball in his hand. And when he fell asleep, into a deeper sleep, he would drop the ball and wake him up. That way he was able to keep his brain in the alpha state. It didn't go deeper than alpha. Alpha, as we know, is the most creative part of our brain cycle. That's where imagination flourishes. So use your imagination and change your world. Another fun fact, your brain only pays attention to what you decide is important. I remember that before I got interested in Teslas, I really didn't see any. But when I began to like the Tesla, all of a sudden there were Teslas all around me. There was not a significant increase in what Tesla was doing. It's just because my brain decided to pay attention to Teslas. And they were all over the place. So I say, learn to look at the positive side of our lives instead of the negative. Because that's where imagination flourishes. Science says that positive thinking is a habit that can be developed. And it will uplift your life dramatically. Science says that seeing the positive side of life actually generates chemicals that elevate your mood. Looking at things positively will make you high. Because your body will begin to generate those chemicals that will elevate your mood and stimulate your imagination. Our lives are filled with gifts, and those gifts are in every situation. I teach that every situation has a gift, no matter how bad it may seem. And if we get into the habit of looking at the positive, then we can begin to see those gifts sooner rather than later. I remember the words of James Allen from his 1903 book, As a Man Thinketh. He said, "Mine is the master power that molds and makes, and man is mine, and evermore he takes. The tool of thought in shaping what he wills brings forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret and it comes to pass. Environment is but his looking glass." Do not forget the words of Neville Goddard. Imagination is God.
So, the terms I used in there were imagination and magical thinking. And so the question is, what does magical thinking and imagination have to do with unforgiveness sabotaging your success? Well, that has a lot to do with it, but we'll explore that further because I have some messages I need to share with you. Be right back. Whether you're building wealth or anticipating a major financial transaction, you can benefit greatly by consulting with a personal, professional, licensed financial advisor. A personal, professional, licensed financial advisor who focuses on you, who understands your unique concerns, who relates to your special goals, who cares about your success. Afroeconomics is a strategic financial program designed for the advancement of Black wealth in America and abroad. It was created by J.B. Bryan, CEO of J.B. Bryan Financial Group, an independent registered investment advisory firm licensed in Virginia, Washington, D.C., New York, and Maryland. Being Black does not condemn you to a life of financial uncertainty. Afroeconomics can show you the way out and up. If this message has meaning and value for you, please click on the thumbs up button below. If you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. You can do so by clicking on the logo at the lower right-hand corner of this video. Remember, I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and questions. Please use the chat box on the right side of the screen, or you can use the comments section below this video. The objective of this ministry is to empower you and your life. If our teaching is of value to you, then we invite your financial support. You can support this ministry by using the Cash App at $Andre Amron, or by going to our website at bozemandevelopment.com and clicking on the Please Donate link. Thank you for your support. So let's talk about the dangers of unforgiveness. The truth is that you are a vibrating spiritual being living in a vibrating spiritual universe. And your imagination feeds directly into the creative energy of infinite intelligence. And your imagination can change your world. Now understand that despite what the talking heads of major media say about magical thinking, because that's a term that's been thrown around a lot lately, and it's been a derogatory term, magical thinking. It's a term kind of dripping with ridicule. Magical thinking. What a silly thing when we know that it won't work. Well, actually, they don't know what they're talking about. They're parroting what society tells them. They're parroting what the people who sign their checks are telling them. But it ain't true. So as I said, you are a spiritual being living in a vibrating spiritual universe. Your presence matters. What you feel and think and speak and act can have a profound effect on the people around you as well as on the universe around you, the environment around you. If you are light and positive and giving off that light and positive energy, the electromagnetic field that surrounds you will reflect that, and people will be drawn to you. They will be attracted to you. On the other hand, if you are dark and negative, the people around you will feel it, and eventually they will want to get away from you because you are draining them of their energy. So that is what unforgiveness brings to us, that darkness. Now you may think it doesn't matter when you don't forgive someone, and I can understand that because that's the way we've been conditioned, that's the way we've been trained. But you see, as long as you don't forgive someone, then that dark energy is going to hide deep within you and affect you. Now you don't know it's there, but your subconscious knows it's there. So what will happen is that in surprising circumstances and situations is you will do something to sabotage yourself. You will look back later and say, why did I do that? What a stupid thing to do. But you will do something to sabotage yourself because that dark energy is there waiting to express itself against you. Why? Because you separated yourself from it. You chose to bury it. And so it's going to get you back. Remember, I've told you that many of the commands we send out into the universe, all the commands we send out to the universe, have to go through us first. They have to go through our bodies. Whether those commands are conscious or unconscious, they have to go through us first. And so they act upon your body before they exit your body. And when they do that, if they're positive, they're going to have a positive effect on your body. But if they're negative, they're going to have a negative effect on your body. And the problem with unforgiveness is that the anger and the hurt that you feel when you are injured, when you are betrayed, that anger and hurt are not only transmitted out into the universe from your body at the time of the initial event of injury, but if you are in a state of unforgiveness which can last for years, if you're in a state of unforgiveness, then that dark energy lies there and waits for opportunities to express itself again. And if you go through the memory of that injurious event, then you're gonna emotionally go through it all over again, over and over again, over and over again. And the effect is that it is building up in your subconscious, and your subconscious gets the idea, the belief, the conviction that you are not worthy, that you do not deserve to have success, that you do not deserve to have financial independence. You don't deserve that. So if you win the lottery, you're going to end up losing all your money pretty fast. If you get a job with a great raise, then you're going to end up finding yourself back in debt again, even though you can afford not to be in debt. But you're going to put yourself in debt. Why? Because you feel guilty inwardly without your conscious knowledge. You feel guilty inwardly about having success, and so you seek to sabotage your success. You seek to get rid of it. So even though you have worked hard and long and clawed your way up the ladder for some modicum of success, inside there is a part of you that is opposed, in opposition to that. And that part of you is going to try and sabotage you every chance it gets until you release it, until you let it go and get it out of there. You see, unforgiveness is a double-edged sword. It not only directs negative energy to the person who hurt you, who really doesn't care anymore, because they are not being affected by your anger and your blame. They're busy having their own problems. Remember, I told you that unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Ain't gonna happen. But at the same time, on a longer term basis, that also directs negative energy. Unforgiveness directs negative energy to you internally. Unforgiveness of you internally, because part of you blames yourself for what happened. Yeah, that part of you thinks I should have seen it coming, or maybe if I had done something different, it wouldn't have happened, or maybe I deserve to be treated that way, or maybe. There's a whole list of maybes that you can put upon yourself and beat yourself up because you got hurt and because this person disrespected you. And the emotions that come along with that blame game, that pity party, are guilt and shame and sadness and a sense of unworthiness. And that is a deadly combination. That is poisonous. That is poisonous to your soul. And you don't even know they're there. You don't even know they're there because you have been successful at burying them. but you haven't been successful at getting rid of them. Buried them, yeah, great, but they're still there. So those negative reactions become part of your shadow self. Remember, your shadow self is that part of you, that self that hides in the dark recesses of your mind and waits to strike back at you. Your shadow self represents your hidden qualities and desires, especially the qualities you dislike in yourself. Your shadow self is all the characteristics you usually don't show out in the open. Those characteristics that you don't like. Those emotions that you don't like about yourself. Those reactions that you don't like about yourself. So what do? You bury them. You hide them in the darkness. You push them away. You push them away. They resent being pushed away, and they come back with a vengeance whenever they can. So we need to let go of them. We need to let go of that darkness. You know, there's the belief that the world won't like you if they found out how you really are. Well, surprisingly, that's not always true. That's a fantasy we put upon ourselves as we beat ourselves up. No, it's not true. So your shadow self, that hidden self, can attack you in many ways. And believe me, from personal experience, it's true. It's true. I have seen myself in situations where I should have been successful doing something stupid to ensure that I didn't achieve success. Things I could have done differently. It's like, boom, all of a sudden I was doing this stupid thing. My shadow self was attacking me. And you know, aside from making you do stupid things, your shadow self can also generate a bath, an internal bath of damaging chemicals and hormones that can attack your body. They're generated by the effects of chronic stress. Chronic stress goes hand in hand with unforgiveness. They're partners in crime, and the chronic stress can damage you physically. So when you find yourself doing things that hurt yourself, when you find yourself doing things that hurt your success, that all of a sudden, for instance, I remember when I first hit $100,000 in income, I got scared. I remember I thought that now I was stuck. This was a golden handcuff, and maybe I should get out of this. It took some talking to myself to finally realize, hey, it's okay that I'm making six figures. It's okay. I deserve it. I earned it. I worked at it. And I forgive myself for being a capitalist, if you will. You can hurt yourself. You can hurt yourself. But you deserve a better life. You deserve all the success you can get. And if you get a windfall, if you win the lottery, don't try and get rid of it as soon as you can because it's burning your fingers. No, get help. Find ways to make it work for you. Find ways to preserve it. If you find yourself hurting yourself, don't sit there wondering, why am I doing this to myself? Start exploring. Have you forgiven yourself for past mistakes? Have you forgiven yourself for past events where you were injured by someone else? Because you wondered what your part in the drama was? Have you forgiven the other person who did it to you? Forgive. Forgive. Remember, forgiving is not condoning. It's not condoning what the other person did. Forgiving is letting go of the pain and the shame and the anger and the emotional hurt that were the result of what they did to you. Forgiveness is letting go. Forgiveness is for you, not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness is allowing them to go their way so that you can go your way in peace. Karma will take care of retribution. So you don't need to pay them back. You don't need to have revenge. You know, some people feel that they should, I need to do something before I die. I need to get something done about this. I need to get revenge. But they feel that way, one, because they have no faith in infinite intelligence doing what it's going to do. And two, they generally think that they have only one life to live. Bullshit. They want to see punishment delivered because they want to see it happen before they die. Not knowing that they don't die. There is no death and there are no dead. There is no death. There are no dead. We continue living. All we do is drop our physical bodies and sometime later pick up another physical body and go through it all over again. So I urge you, do not take the weight of unforgiveness onto your shoulders. Let it go. We already have so much to deal with here on earth. We have so much to deal with here in our lives on earth. Life here on earth is very complex, very hard, very burdensome. Life on earth is tough. You don't need to add to it. Living your physical life here on earth rather than somewhere else is for the purpose of learning great lessons, learning some heavy-duty lessons, and building up your spiritual strength. That's what life on earth is about, building up your spiritual strength. Because this is a hard place to live. There are other places to live that are not as demanding, not as stressful. This is the big time. This is, whoa. This is the big time. And you are a spiritual being having a human experience on one of the hardest places to live, and that is Earth. Life here is really hard, and a lot of people can't take it. A lot of people try and find a way out of this life. I gotta get out. However I can, even if it means shooting myself. It is tough here on earth. I know that. But as a spiritual warrior having a human experience, a spiritual warrior who understands that you are an individualized expression of infinite intelligence, that is critical. You are an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. You are an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. Therefore, infinite intelligence is always with you. Infinite intelligence will never leave you. You can connect with it at any time. You can call on it for help at any time, and it will find a way to help you. Infinite intelligence is here for you because the kingdom of infinite intelligence, the kingdom of God, is within you. It never leaves you. It is always accessible. You know, there's the statement, when there's no way, God finds a way, God makes a way. Well, that's true. So here on earth, in this complex, burdensome, difficult life, we need to stay as clear as possible as we go through this life. We don't need to add complications to it. We've already got enough. There are many lessons that we're going to learn here, and I think probably the biggest lesson we need to learn is forgiveness. Forgiveness, forgiving ourselves, forgiving those who injure us, forgiveness, letting go, getting those hooks out. You know, every time you don't forgive, every time you're injured, there's like a hook, like a fish hook, jumped into your aura that's holding you down. It's tied to the ground. And the more unforgiveness you have, the more hooks there are pulling at you, generating chronic stress, eventually possibly generating things like cancer and other illnesses. So we need to learn forgiveness. We also need to learn the power of our imaginations. Imagination can help take us to higher levels of success, because imagination can see something that is not there physically in front of you. Imagination can see the possibilities. Imagination can see the way up and out. Imagination can see it. Remember in the talk I gave for the video, I stated that Einstein said the way he came up with the theory of relativity was that he imagined himself flying at the speed of light and then looking around to see how the world and other objects were behaving. That's what did it. He was already there. He wasn't guessing about it. He was remembering and taking notes. Imagination is infinite intelligence expressing through us, and shows us that we are unlimited beings who can accomplish anything. We came here to grow spiritually. We came here to help elevate the consciousness of the planet. So let go and let God. God will take care of it. God will take care of it. I'm sure you've heard the term at some point in your life, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Well, there's a point behind that. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, means that you don't have to deal with it. It's not your responsibility to get vengeance. It's your responsibility to let that go and keep climbing. Keep climbing. You know, that sentiment is stated in the Bible a number of times throughout the Bible. Vengeance is mine. By the way, I often refer to the Bible. I know people think, why is he always talking about the Bible? Well, I often refer to the Bible because I was taught in mystery school, where I attended to become a minister and was trained in various religions and esoteric trainings, that the Bible is the greatest mystery book ever written. Mystery book. I learned that we shouldn't view it as a book of history. We shouldn't view it as real people going through real experiences. That's not what it's about. Underneath all that, underneath those stories, are powerful spiritual lessons that span time, that have been around for millennia. Powerful spiritual lessons. And so you should read them to avail yourself of the wisdom in those powerful spiritual lessons, those deep spiritual lessons that are digestible and enduring. So on the subject of vengeance, where the Bible mentions it time and time and time again, we've got the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 24, verse 12. Says, "May the Lord judge between me and you. May the Lord avenge me against you. But my hand shall not be against you." My hand shall not be against you, because God has taken care of it. God is going to avenge me. Perhaps the most famous expression of that sentiment that amuses me. It's dramatically expressed by Samuel L. Jackson playing the character Jules Pitt in the movie Pulp Fiction. Because he's always reciting this passage before he wreaks vengeance upon people. It's from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 25, verse 17. And he says, "The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee." It's quite a statement. Wow. So the temptation to hold on to unforgiveness is strong. I'll admit that. From a human perspective, unforgiveness makes sense. The belief that you have only one life to live makes it imperative that justice be done right now in this life before I die. It makes sense. But that ain't the truth. You got more than one life. You never die. There is no death, there are no dead. We are higher beings encased in physical bodies. We have bodies, yes, that's the truth. But we're not our bodies. We're bigger than our bodies. We live many lives and we see karma brought about in many instances throughout lifetimes. So it ain't up to us. Balance will be served. Balance will be served. And it's not up to you to commit that balancing act. Because you know what happens when you wreak vengeance on someone? You build karma. It comes back at you. So you got to break the cycle, Let it go. Let it go. Because if you don't let it go, you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it in terms of self-sabotage. You're going to pay for it in terms of losses coming to you that make no sense until you look inside and see that your shadow self was the one that brought about that failure. No, don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. Unforgiveness can kill your success. It will kill your success. Because it's hiding there, waiting to destroy. So don't let unforgiveness drag you down. Don't let it happen. Don't see your success sabotaged. Don't see your success sabotaged. Don't let success happen to you and then all of a sudden it's taken away from you because of this unforgiveness hiding inside of yourself. Let it go. Let it go. I urge you to seek peace within your life rather than turmoil. Bring yourself into a state of peace so that you don't become like Velcro for negative experiences. I remember when I used to do hands-on healing, I would feel in the aura, in the electromagnetic field, the places where there was distress, the places where there was disease, the places where there was illness would have a muddy feel, but also a prickly field. It would be like Velcro. That's what was being attracting the negative experiences. It was like Velcro. And so my job was to try and clear that out. But, it really can't be cleared out by external means. It has to be cleared out from inside. It has to be released from inside yourself. It's a mental thing. But you do want to be like Teflon. Hey, analogies are good. So don't be like Velcro, be like Teflon. They say Donald Trump is like Teflon. He slides through situation after situation in which he should be punished, but he just slides through. Who else was like that? Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was called Teflon because he would slide through situations where people around him were being arrested and taken to jail and nothing touched him. Teflon, that's what you want to be. Not Velcro, Teflon. So remember, what goes around comes around. So if you send out light energy, positive energy, then what comes around to you is light energy and positive energy, multiplied. If you send out negative energy, unforgiveness energy, then what's going to come back at you is negative energy and unforgiveness energy. It all makes sense when you think about it. So let it go. Let it go. Let it go. You will gain so much more if you just let it go. Let's close with prayer. Thank you. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing all of us together in this life so that we may become spiritual warriors and join in the work we have come here to do. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing us into this space of awareness and a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationship to life and infinite intelligence. Thank you for showing us who we really are. We open our minds and hearts to the truth of our being. We are the children of God. We are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. And because we are part of the greater whole, we're beginning to understand our value to the continuity of life on this planet. As we become channels of your power, infinite intelligence, we can feel your presence within ourselves and within our lives more and more. We know that as we feel your presence within our lives every day, we will rise, because we are no longer cut off from you by being immersed in the darkness of fear, anger, and the pain of unforgiveness. So we're now restoring our connection through the grace of forgiveness, knowing that as we learn to forgive ourselves for the pain that we have caused to ourselves, and as we learn to forgive those who have inflicted pain upon us, our connections will grow stronger, and our lives will grow happier and healthier and more prosperous. And for this, we are truly grateful. As above, so below. As within, so without. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. Thank you for spending some time with me. Thank you for watching. Remember, you are so powerful. You are an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. And what you think and what you feel matters to the universe. It affects the universe. It affects the people around you. So remember that. Remember how powerful you are. Remember that. And have a great week. I look forward to seeing you next week. Yeah. Yes, I do. I am Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind. If this message has meaning and value for you, please click on the thumbs up button below. If you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. You can do so by clicking on the logo at the lower right-hand corner of this video. Remember, I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and questions. Please use the chat box on the right side of the screen, or you can use the comments section below this video. The objective of this ministry is to empower you and your life. If our teaching is of value to you, then we invite your financial support. You can support this ministry by using the Cash App at $Andre Amron, or by going to our website at bozemandevelopment.com and clicking on the Please Donate link. Thank you for your support.